June 23, 1943. RAF Medmenham, Buckinghamshire, England. The room smells of cigarette smoke, hot wiring insulation, and damp wool uniforms. Outside, rain needles against the blackout curtains, but inside, the lights are unforgivingly bright. Flight Lieutenant Geoffrey Geo Tandy, Royal Air Force photographic interpreter, leans over a long wooden table. Spread before him are freshly developed aerial reconnaissance photographs, still warm from the drying racks. His fingers, stained faintly with developer chemicals, hover inches above the images. He does not touch them yet. The hum of a projector fills the room. Somewhere behind him, a kettle clicks off, forgotten. At first glance, the photographs look like dozens of others Geo has studied over the past 3 years. Forests, coastlines, anonymous buildings arranged in neat German order. The location is stamped in the corner. Peenemünde, Baltic coast, Germany. Geo adjusts his spectacles and leans closer. Something is wrong. Not wrong in the sense of bomb damage or troop movement, but wrong in scale, in intent. He traces a ruler along one of the images. A long, narrow structure. Concrete. Purpose-built. Not a factory hall. Not a hangar. Too elongated. Too clean. That's no aircraft shed, he mutters, barely audible. Around him, other analysts murmur, shuffle papers, argue over rail sidings and fuel depots. The war has taught them patterns. Luftwaffe airfields. U-boat pens. Tank assembly plants. They know what war infrastructure looks like. This does not fit. Geo flips to the next photograph, taken from 27,000 feet by a PRU Spitfire, its unarmed fuselage painted a ghostly blue. The pilot had flown alone, engines throttled just enough to stay aloft, praying German radar operators were bored or blind. Another long structure appears. Parallel. Then another. And then Geo sees it. At the edge of a clearing, a shape unlike anything he has catalogued before. A slender cylinder, lying horizontal on a rail-like support. Fins at one end. Sharp nose at the other. His breath catches. That's a rocket, he says. The room quiets, not instantly but gradually, as his tone ripples outward. A senior officer steps closer. Wing Commander Douglas Kendall, intelligence liaison. A what Tandy? Geo swallows. He has learned not to exaggerate. Exaggeration kills credibility. A rocket, sir, not artillery, not aircraft launched, something self-propelled. He reaches for a magnifying glass and slides it across the table. Kendall bends down, peers through it. His jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. This isn't a V1, Kendall says finally. Those pulse jet things our agents mentioned. No, sir, Geo replies. Too large, too refined, and there's no ramp here, just a vertical gantry. Geo flips to another photograph, taken days earlier from a slightly different angle. The same structure, but now shadows stretch longer across the ground. And there it is, a tall concrete tower, circular at the base, with a steel framework rising above it like the skeleton of a cathedral spire. A launch tower. The realization settles over the room like a pressure change. Someone whispers, "Dear God." Geo straightens slowly. His pulse is loud in his ears. He remembers something his old engineering tutor once said at Cambridge. If the Germans are building something this precise, it's because they expect it to work. He clears his throat. Sir, if this is what I think it is, then Germany isn't just experimenting. Kendall looks at him sharply. Finish that sentence, Flight Lieutenant. They're close, closer than we believed. Silence follows. Outside, a distant bomber drone rolls across the English countryside, friendly aircraft heading east. For a moment, the sound is comforting. Then Geo imagines something else crossing the channel. Not a bomber you can hear coming. Not a raid you can intercept. Something that falls from the sky at supersonic speed, without warning, without defense. He points again at the photo. These buildings here, liquid oxygen storage, cryogenic tanks, you don't build those unless you're fueling something extreme. Kendall exhales slowly. Range. Geo hesitates. This is the dangerous part, inference. If launched from the coast, London is within reach. The word London hangs in the air like a death sentence. Someone in the back of the room swears softly. Kendall straightens. His voice is calm, but the calm of a man who understands consequences. Get these enlarged. Full analysis. I want dimensions, materials, anything you can infer. Yes, sir. As Kendall turns away, Geo remains staring at the photographs. He feels no triumph, no thrill of discovery, only dread. Because for the first time since the Blitz, he understands something terrible. The next attack may not come with sirens. It may not come with sound at all. And when it does, it will already be too late. June 24, 1943. Whitehall, London. The photographs arrive at the War Office just after dawn, still sealed in their stiff brown envelopes, marked most secret in red pencil. Outside, London is waking, buses grinding through wet streets, clerks lighting cigarettes beneath sandbagged doorways, unaware that somewhere beneath Peenemund's pine forests, a weapon has already changed the nature of the war. In a windowless briefing room deep inside Whitehall, Major General Sir Stuart Menzies, head of MI6, studies the enlargements in silence. He does not rush. He never does. Years of espionage have taught him that panic clouds judgment, but ignorance kills nations. Across the table sits Duncan Sandys, recently appointed chairman of the Cabinet's Rocket Committee. Sandys drums his fingers against the wood, eyes locked on the same image Geo Tandy had stared at only hours earlier. The cylinder, the fins, the tower. Sandys breaks the silence first. That's no pilotless aircraft, he says. No wings, no intake. Menzies nods slightly. Our agents in Sweden have been whispering about liquid-fueled rockets for months. Most were dismissed as fantasy. Sandys leans closer, voice low. And now, Menzies replies, we have proof. A junior intelligence officer steps forward, nervous but prepared. Captain Arthur Rowley signals intelligence. Intercepts from Army Group North mention Virgil Tungswaf Zwei Vengeance Weapon 2. We believed it to be propaganda. Sandys looks up sharply. You believed. Rowley swallows. Sir, German industry has not produced anything like this before. Sandys gestures at the photographs. They have now. The room tightens. Someone dims the lights. A projector whirs to life, throwing enlarged shadows onto the wall. Concrete structures appear. Fuel tanks. Rail spurs. The massive launch tower dominates the frame. A Royal Engineers colonel speaks up. That tower's fixed, vulnerable. Sandys shakes his head. Which means they're not done. He turns back to Menzies. They'll build mobile platforms, smaller sites, harder to detect. Menzies does not argue. He already knows. The conversation shifts, rapidly now, from identification to consequence. If it's liquid-fueled, the colonel continues, then range exceeds anything artillery can manage. Sandys does the calculation aloud. 200 miles puts London squarely in reach. No one speaks. Outside the room, footsteps echo down the corridor. A typist pauses, sensing tension she cannot see. Sandys straightens. There will be no warning, he says. No bomber streams, no radar contact, no interception. A quiet horror spreads around the table. For 3 years, Britain has learned how to fight air war. Radar, fighters, sirens, shelters. Civilization has adapted to terror. This weapon offers no such mercy. Menzies folds his hands. We must assume impact before detection. Sandys exhales. Then civil defense is meaningless. The word meaningless lands hard. A messenger enters hurriedly, salutes and hands Sandys a note. Sandy scans it once. Churchill wants an assessment, now. Minutes later, Sandy strides through Whitehall's corridors, photographs tucked under his arm. Guards snap to attention as he passes. Somewhere above, Prime Minister Winston Churchill is already pacing. The door to the cabinet war rooms closes behind him with a soft, final sound. Churchill stands near the map wall, cigar clenched between his teeth. He does not offer pleasantries. What have the Germans built that makes my advisors look like undertakers? Sandys lays the photographs out. Churchill steps forward. His eyes narrow. He has seen many weapons in his lifetime. Battleships, artillery, bombers, gas masks for children. This is different. A rocket, Churchill murmurs. Like Wells imagined. Yes, Prime Minister. Can we stop it? Sandys hesitates, just long enough. We can try, if we strike Peenemund hard. Churchill studies the tower again. Then he straightens. Then we shall. He turns to the room. If this thing reaches London, it will kill without warning. I will not allow the Germans the satisfaction of such a blow. The decision is made. Across the channel, German engineers continue their work, unaware that the photographs taken from a single silent Spitfire have sealed their fate. And in London, planners begin drafting an operation that will light the Baltic sky on fire. The rockets are coming. But first, the Allies will strike back. August 17, 1943. RAF Scampton, Lincolnshire. 20:41 hours. The engines begin turning one by one, a deep mechanical growl spreading across the airfield like distant thunder. Avro Lancasters, squat and black against the fading sky, sit heavy with fuel and bombs. Ground crews move quickly, efficiently, avoiding eye contact with the air crews climbing aboard. Everyone here knows this is no routine raid. Inside Lancaster ED 825, Squadron Leader Johnny Falkweir straps himself into the pilot's seat. His navigator, Flight Lieutenant Frank Mayers, unfolds his charts for the last time, smoothing creases with shaking fingers. Destination, Peenemund. Target, German rocket research facilities. Objective, delay the impossible. No one says rockets out loud. Falkweir adjusts his harness and looks back at his crew. All right, lads, he says evenly. This one matters. The aircraft lurches forward, tires thumping against concrete, then lifts into the darkening sky. Below, England slips away, fields, rivers, lights dimmed by war. You can feel it as the formation assembles. This mission is different. There is no industrial city to burn, no obvious marshalling yards. This is precision, a scalpel, not a hammer. Over the North Sea, the bombers fly low, engines throttled back to reduce radar signature. Inside the fuselage, cold air leaks through seams. The smell of oil and cordite mixes with sweat. At Peenemund, German scientists are still at work. Wernher von Braun stands inside the control bunker, reviewing test data. The V4 rocket, what the world will later call the V2, has achieved powered flight beyond the stratosphere. Failures remain, but the mathematics is sound. Germany is on the edge of a breakthrough. At 0:28 hours, the first Pathfinder flares bloom over the Baltic coast. Red, green, white. The illusion of safety shatters instantly. German anti-aircraft guns snap awake, flak bursting in black blossoms around the incoming bombers. Searchlights claw at the sky, intersecting like prison bars. Inside ED 825, the aircraft jolts violently. Flak portside, someone shouts. Falkweir holds course. The bomb aimer, Sergeant Bill Skelton, lies flat in the nose, staring down at the ghostly shapes below. He sees the launch tower, massive, unmistakable, and the clustered buildings surrounding it. Target in sight. Below, engineers run for cover as the first bombs fall. Explosions ripple across Peenemund, tearing through workshops and barracks alike. Concrete fractures. Steel buckles. Flames lick upward, painting the night orange. One bomb punches straight through the roof of the V2 assembly building, detonating inside. Another lands near the oxygen plant, rupturing storage tanks in a violent white plume. Von Braun is thrown to the floor as the bunker shakes. "This is it," someone yells. They know. The raid intensifies. Lancasters roar overhead, bomb doors yawning open. Entire sections of the research complex vanish beneath fireballs. German night fighters scramble, silhouettes flashing past searchlights. A Lancaster explodes midair, flak tearing it apart. Burning debris spirals downward. Inside ED-825, Skelton flips the release. Bombs gone. The aircraft leaps upward, suddenly lighter. Fauquier banks hard, engines screaming as tracer fire slices past the cockpit. Behind them, Peenemünde burns. But the cost is terrible. German radar had detected the raid early. Fighters swarm. Bomber after bomber falls into the sea or the forests inland. Crews bail out into darkness, parachutes blossoming briefly before disappearing. By dawn, the damage is assessed. Production halls destroyed. Test stands wrecked. Key scientists killed, though not always the ones the Allies hoped. A tragic irony emerges. Many bombs struck forced labor barracks, killing prisoners rather than engineers. Yet the impact is undeniable. The rocket program is set back months, possibly longer. Back in London, Sandy studies the after-action reports, jaw clenched. "Did we stop it?" someone asks. Sandy's answers honestly. "No, but we slowed it." Across the channel, the Germans disperse their rocket effort. Smaller sites, mobile launch units, forest clearings and concrete pads hidden beneath camouflage. The tower at Peenemünde will never launch a weapon again, but the idea has survived. In England, new defenses are discussed, none convincing. You cannot intercept something that arrives before sound. The war has crossed a threshold. Soon the rockets will fly. And when they do, London will learn what it means to be struck by a weapon you never hear coming. September 8, 1944. Chiswick, West London. 18:43 hours. There is no siren. There is no distant drone of engines, no rising howl to send people running for shelters. The evening air over Chiswick is calm, almost gentle. Shopkeepers are pulling down shutters. A tram rattles along its rails. Somewhere, a wireless plays softly through an open window. Then the ground detonates. The explosion arrives first, a violent, concussive slap that flattens walls and hurls bodies through the air. Windows shatter outward. Brick and timber disintegrate in a radius that defies logic. For a fraction of a second there is no sound at all, just pressure, raw and overwhelming. And then the thunder follows. The V2 rocket, traveling faster than sound, has already struck before anyone can register its presence. It leaves behind no warning, no defense, no mercy. On Staveley Road, Mrs. Ethel Bowyer, 63, is lifted off her feet as the street folds inward. The house beside hers collapses completely. Gas mains rupture. Fire blooms instantly. Within minutes, rescue crews arrive, confused, shaken, searching for an aircraft that never existed. There are no wreckage patterns consistent with a bomber. No crater from a conventional bomb. Only devastation. At Whitehall, the first reports arrive garbled and contradictory. Gas explosion, someone suggests. Aircraft, another asks. But Duncan Sandys already knows. He stands in the cabinet room, hands braced against the table, listening as casualty numbers climb. The memory of Peenemünde, the photographs, the tower, the warnings, rushes back with brutal clarity. "This is it," he says quietly. "The rocket." Churchill closes his eyes for a long moment. Casualties. 3 dead confirmed, 17 injured, that will rise. Churchill exhales smoke, jaw set. So it begins. Civil defense officials scramble, issuing statements designed to prevent panic. The press is told to refer to the explosion as a gas main rupture. Publicly, nothing has changed. Privately, everything has. Within days, more impacts follow. September 13th, Epping. September 15th, Stepney. September 17th, Tottenham. Each strike is sudden. Each produces the same bewilderment among survivors. People describe hearing the explosion after being thrown to the ground. Doctors note injuries consistent with massive overpressure rather than fragmentation. Scientists confirm the truth. The rockets are traveling at Mach 5. There is nothing Britain can do to stop them. Sandy's office becomes a war room of futility. Maps are pinned with impact sites. Analysts attempt to predict launch locations based on trajectory, but the rockets are mobile now, fired from forests in Holland, then gone before reconnaissance aircraft arrive. You sit with them, staring at the map, realizing something unsettling. This is the future of warfare. No pilots, no warning, no defense. Only mathematics and momentum. Churchill refuses to retaliate in kind. Britain has no such weapon. Instead, Bomber Command is ordered to hunt launch sites relentlessly, flattening suspected areas with conventional raids, often too late, sometimes tragically inaccurate. By winter, the death toll climbs into the thousands. And yet, something else becomes clear. Despite their terror, the rockets do not break London. There are no mass evacuations. No riots. People adapt, grimly, stubbornly. The British do what they have always done. They endure. One civil defense officer writes in his diary, "The worst thing is the silence. You never know when it's coming." In Germany, propaganda declares the V2 a miracle weapon, vengeance for Allied bombing. But even as rockets strike London, Antwerp, and Liege, the war is slipping away from the Reich. Fuel is gone. Industry is collapsing. The Red Army advances relentlessly. The weapon that was supposed to change everything arrives too late. Still, for the men who saw those photographs in 1943, the knowledge cuts deep. They had been right. The future had arrived early, and it had fallen from the sky. May 2, 1945. Cuxhaven, northern Germany. The war is ending in fragments. Along the North Sea coast, the air smells of salt, burned fuel, and surrender. German troops move without urgency now, rifles slung loosely, eyes hollow. Somewhere inland, artillery still rumbles, but here, the fighting has already drained away. A British intelligence convoy rolls through the gates of a former Wehrmacht facility near Cuxhaven. The guards do not resist. They simply step aside. Inside, Major Geoffrey Tandy steps down from the truck. He looks older, thinner. The lines around his eyes are permanent now. The irony is not lost on him. 2 years ago, he had first seen the future on a light table in Buckinghamshire. Now he has come to walk through its remains. The facility is quiet, eerily so. Concrete bunkers stand open, doors blasted inward. Inside one, twisted metal and scorched wiring mark the remains of what was once a rocket engine test stand. Tandy runs a hand along a fractured pipe. Liquid oxygen feed line. Nearby, a chalkboard still bears equations, half erased in haste. Velocity curves. Thrust-to-weight ratios. Numbers that once promised victory. A British officer approaches, clipboard in hand. "We've secured documents, sir. Blueprints, technical logs." Tandy nods. "Any intact hardware?" The officer hesitates. "Fragments, enough to understand." That will be enough. Elsewhere, American teams are already racing eastward, scooping up scientists, engineers, anything that can be moved. Operation Paperclip is already underway, though few know its name yet. The rockets have lost the war, but they will not be forgotten. That afternoon, Tandy sits on an ammunition crate outside the bunker, watching the sea. He lights a cigarette with trembling fingers. He thinks of Chiswick, of the maps covered in red pins, of the nights spent wondering if something more could have been done. A young lieutenant breaks the silence. "Sir, do you think it was worth it, all that effort?" Tandy exhales slowly. "No," he says. "I think it was inevitable." In London, victory is announced days later. Crowds flood the streets, cheering, laughing, embracing strangers. Church bells ring until hands blister and ropes fray. But even in celebration, something has shifted. The age of warning has ended. In the months that follow, reports circulate quietly among Allied planners. The V-2 is analyzed not as a terror weapon, but as a proof of concept. Ballistic trajectories, re-entry physics, guidance gyros. What terrified London will one day reach continents. Years later, when rockets carry satellites into orbit and weapons across oceans, the lineage will trace back to Peenemund, to those first blurred photographs on a light table. To a moment in 1943, when one British analyst leaned closer and realized the war had stepped into a new era. Tandy stands, flicks his cigarette into the sand, and turns away from the sea. The past is finished. The future is already rising.